What's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's mindset video. And if you've ever wondered how to master discipline and how to make sure that discipline is something that works for you rather than something that you struggle with, make sure that you listen all the way through to this week's episode. First thing we are going to do is have a look at the meaning of discipline, because every time that I check this out and I Google it, it changes, which is always interesting. But the key premise around it stays the same. And it also explains why a lot of people hate the word discipline, or feeling like they need to be disciplined, or whatever it might be, from being a kid to an adult to your routine to work. A lot of people have a negative connotation to discipline, and I can understand why. Let's have a look at some of these definitions. So the one that I have Googled that says it's the best explanation of discipline is the quality of being able to behave and work in a controlled way, which involves obeying particular rules and standards. And you'll read other ones where you need to be forced to do this. And if you look at the core words that describe discipline, they're things like force, control, obedience, punish. And when you think about that, none of that sounds very inviting. None of that sounds like, ooh, I can't wait to be disciplined, or I can't wait to have more discipline. And I can understand why. And if you grew up like I grew up, right, with hardcore disciplined parents, military school, having to do things at a high level of sport where discipline was enforced, it was something that we didn't have a choice. Like when I grew up in South Africa, I would get the cane. I would forget my book to class, and I would have to bend over in class and literally get 6 of the best in front of the class. If I didn't do my homework, I would get caned. If my uniform wasn't up to standard, I would get caned. Like, discipline was enforced. So much so that I talk about this all the time, that now this generation of parents are so afraid to enforce any discipline on their kids that their kids do nothing and expect everything. There definitely needs to be a balance. And what I want to focus on today is, how do we take something that for a lot of you has been negative? One, let's turn it positive. And two, how do we use discipline to make sure that you achieve what you want, which is ultimately you being the best you and you creating the results that you want, that give you a sense of happiness, fulfillment, progress, results. So first thing I want to do is visit some of the words that we talked about: force, control, obedience, punish. All of those words have one thing associated to them in terms of instant reaction that a lot of you will have in your mind. And that reaction is one of pain. In order to be disciplined, it's going to cause pain. For me to achieve what I want with a level of discipline, it's going to be painful. And then you hear all of the rah-rah, suck it up, pussy, stop being a little bitch, you can do it, grind, hustle, all you need is discipline. And I get some of that to a certain extent. I even relate to it to a certain extent, but majority of people don't. And if you wonder why they don't, well, just look at the statistics, right? People are no more disciplined than they used to be. If anything, they're way less disciplined. Just look at the results. We're slipping in every capacity. Why is that the case? Like, why does the thought of discipline have to be something that pain is attached to? And I share this quote often, and it's something that resonates, that we're going to explore in the next thing I'm going to talk about, is that for a lot of people, when they want to achieve something, they feel like they have to, they need to. Sometimes they'll progress to the fact that they want to. All right. But The Rock said something years ago, and I love this. I'm not sure where he got it from, but it definitely resonated with me, is that none of those things matter. What matters is the fact that I get to. Think about that. You procrastinate and delay doing things that you get the opportunity to do, that some people would give anything to have the opportunity to do. But yet for you, it feels like a need and a have to and maybe a want to, rather than I get to seize this opportunity. I get to fuel my body. I get to work out. I get to work on myself. I get to be able to live the life that I want to live. I get to. And when you can create a different perspective around this, like initially being pain to now, what I would love to think about is progress. And in order to achieve progress, I need to be able to do something systematically and consistently enough to create an outcome and a result. Fact, you literally cannot do one without the other. In order to create anything, build anything, do anything, it takes consistent action over a period of time to create that result. And that period of time may be relevant. It may not be relevant depending on whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. At the end of the day, you set out to do something and you either did it or you didn't. You either got the result or you didn't. You have something tangible and measurable, which is what we can do something with. When you live in this place of pain and fear, then you start living from a place of procrastination and start stopping. And I only do it when I feel like I can embrace the pain or I've got enough enthusiasm to put the pain out of my mind for a while. And then maybe I'll do it until suddenly it becomes more painful to do it than not to do it in here. All right. The reality of you showing up and actually doing it is not painful at all. It's not painful at all. But yet we attach this emotion and then fear of missing out. And this is the crazy part when you look at discipline. A lot of the fear around discipline is FOMO, fear of missing out. I want to get in the best shape of my life. This year, I'm going to do it. Oh, but then I can't drink. Oh, but then what if I want to do that? Oh, and then it means I'm going to have to work out and then I'm going to have to get up early and then I'm not going to be able to do that. And then what? Suddenly you're missing out on feeling unhappy, miserable, and overweight or depressed like you have been for however long. Yeah, you have fear of missing out. And I laugh because I see the reality in both ways. I see how quickly it can transition as well, that over here, they're defending something that they're missing out on, but yet what they're defending about missing out on is something that they actually don't want. But yet they're defending it as if they're going to miss out on it, but yet they don't want it. Right? But that's the conditioning, because we think that I'm going to miss out, which is going to cause pain. And then if I go over here, it's unknown. So there's doubt, certainty, fear. Maybe I'll fail. So there's pain associated with that. So then we stay stuck and we stay in the same cycle over and over again. And then someone will go, I just wish I had more discipline. No, you don't. Because if you wished you had more discipline, then you would start to do things that would bring that wish to life. Otherwise, you might as well just sit there and fantasize all day long, because that's all the wish is. Whereas if you change the wish and the want and the need and the have to I get to, I have the opportunity in my life to do everything I can to get in the best shape, to make the most amount of money, to have the best relationships, to travel the world, to do what I love to do for work, to read as many books as I want, to live a lifestyle that makes me happy every single day. Like, I get to. But here's the thing. You don't get to unless you're willing to do the work long enough to make that happen. That's what I was saying before. It takes consistent action over time in order to create that outcome. So now you're sitting in this place that we understand that in order to move forward, there is something that I need to do consistently. I'm living in past behavior patterns and all of these different emotions with pain attached to having to actually do the thing, having to show up consistently when I don't want to, when I'm tired, when I'm overwhelmed, when life's busy and I'm stressed and intimacy's gone out of my relationship, all of these things that are happening in your world. This result doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff. You either showed up consistently to create it or you didn't. Like, all of that noise is irrelevant to this equation. So then you stay in this battle between, yes, I want to, still not at the stage that I get to, but now I'm dealing with all this stuff that I'm just going to handle this stuff first and then I'll get to it. I'll start next week. I'll start next month. I'll start on Monday when the stars in the universe and everybody aligns, then maybe I will show up for myself. And yes, I'm being facetious. I always am, because Sometimes we need to hear our own bullshit to recognize what we're actually putting in our way. Whereas I look at these words, force, control, obedience, punish, as ways to create rewards, not pain, progress. Sometimes I'm going to have to embrace the suck, and I'm going to have to force myself to do things that I don't like. Hands down. I'm going to have to be really shitty at something for a good amount of time until I'm good at it. And I need to be willing to go through that. It might be humiliating. It might be embarrassing. It's probably going to be very frustrating. It's going to challenge my self-worth and my self-belief and my confidence. Yet, if I want to get better, guess what? 1 + 1 = 2. There's no way around it. I'm not instantly going to be an F1 driver. I'm not instantly going to be a professional pole dancer when I've never done anything like that. Whatever it is for you, it's going to take embracing mistakes and tripping over and doing things the wrong way till you figure out the right way. And I'm going to sometimes have to force myself to show up. Could be cold outside, rainy outside, blankets very comfortable and calling my name and telling me not to leave. Get up and go. Same with control. If I can't control my actions and my reactions, then I'm allowing everything and everyone to control what I do, the actions that I take, the emotions that I live with, and ultimately the end result that I have. And then I'm going to blame everybody else, but guess what? I'm still going to have the same shitty results. So I got to claim back that control in order to create the reward, and the reward being consistent action over time in a certain direction. Now I have what I want. That's the reward, but I got to control that. If I'm going here and here and here and here and here, I'm not in control. I'm not in control of any of that stuff. So I'm going 1 meter in 10 different directions rather than going 10 meters in one direction and creating progress. Obedience. If I make myself a promise to do something and I cannot, I don't want to use the word, and I choose not to, right? A lot of you are saying I can, but it's a choice, right? You either did or you didn't. If I choose not to do that, I am lying to myself. If I cannot be obedient enough to trust in my own word, how the fuck am I going to do anything? And how's anybody else ever going to trust me? But yet you look at having to be obedient as this negative thing, whereas I'm looking at it as, look, in order to have control, in order to create results, in order to build self-confidence and self-worth, I need to be able to trust in my word to show up and then do it. Be obedient to yourself and show up. I don't need you to fall in line for anybody else, but if you make a promise to yourself or anybody else, show up. When did your word no longer become your bond? When did anybody's word no longer become something that they are willing to stand behind with full transparency and responsibility? Rather than being keyboard warriors and telling everybody on social media how amazing you are and how happy you are and how great life is while you sit at home and eat a tub of ice cream and feel like shit. There's incongruencies there. And the best way to know it is you either have the result that you want or you don't. And if you don't yet, cool. Maybe you're at the stage where you're embracing the suck. You're having to show up and it's ugly and you're fumbling around yet, but guess what? You're still showing up. Pat yourself on the back. That is a win that you can build upon every single day. Last one here, punish. I look at this as more being able to measure. So rather than the word punish, which a lot of you will look at negatively, I look at it as being able to measure my progress. Because at the end of the day, if I don't have what I want yet, and I can measure my progress, then all I need to do is assess what I need to keep doing to keep moving forward. Whereas if I'm afraid to measure and I tell myself stories and I fluff around these things and everything else, and one day I do it, then I have 3 days off, and another day I do it, then I have 2 days off, then I say I'm going to do it, and then I don't show up. And then I had this whole emotional bullshit conversation with myself about why don't I do it? And it's so hard and I really want to, but then I don't. And blah, 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 blah. And then there's tears and everything else. But guess what? You just did jack shit over that entire time. Nothing has changed the results. Whereas when I can be honest with myself and I can measure my progress, then I can continue to go in the direction that I want. And if I'm not in line or aligned with where I want to go, then all I gotta do is make adjustments. That's it. Right? When you were a kid, you didn't behave. Guess what? You got spanked. We aren't worried about children's rights and shit like that. You got spanked. It was abrupt. Yes, it was painful, but guess what? I knew that I wasn't going to do that behavior again. I very quickly was able to measure that, hey, that didn't work. Well, let's try this. Whereas we're so afraid to be honest with ourselves and give ourselves those harsh reality checks. That's why I'm removing the word punish and changing it to measure for a lot of you, that we don't ever move forward where we want to go, or if we do it so sporadically that it feels like it's going to take forever, which it will. If I'm only willing to work out or do something once a week, and I let everything else get in the way of that, when I could actually do it 5 or 6 times a week if I prioritized it properly, then of course it's going to take you longer to achieve what you want, and you're probably going to get in your way a hell of a lot more because things are taking longer. So again, let's encapsulate all of this in terms of your perspective around discipline being painful versus discipline being attached to progress. Your ability to build discipline, create discipline, be more disciplined is literally just a matter of you being willing to show up and do the work over time. That's it. Right? For me, there's no negativity around that at all. I don't even often think about the word discipline, because if something is important to me and I want to achieve it, I need to add that thing to my daily routine, and I need to own that thing until I'm good at it. And if I'm not good at it and I suck at it, I'm just going to keep doing it and learn what I need to until I'm good at it. And that doesn't even take force or having to work through things. That's a choice that I get to make every day. I get to make it because the outcome is what's important to me. Me being able to do things at that level, have things at that level, operate, live, feel, look. That's what I want. The reward is so much greater than the work that I've got to put in. And this is the issue where so many of you live. And next week, I'm going to do a whole episode about falling in love with the process. Is that you're living in this place of where you are and where you want to be, and then you stay stuck in the pit because what it takes to get to where you want to get to, you're not willing to do. Or if you're willing to do it, you're not willing to do it long enough, consistently enough, in order to create an outcome that we can do something with. Either course correct, adapt, adjust, or continue to progress and enjoy. And you're sitting here and you're asking yourself and you're saying things like, why can't I be more disciplined? Why don't I have more discipline? If you ask me, it's because the reward for you is not good enough. It's why for a lot of people, they have to wait for a catalyst that is so fucking painful that pain becomes what gets them to move. Pain becomes their catalyst. But here's something I can tell you without a doubt. That pain will propel you to a certain point. At that point, if the reward is not bigger, enjoy going back to being in pain. I have seen this cycle after cycle where something will happen in someone's life after they've created an incredible result. Even if it came from pain, I don't care. The result that they achieved was amazing. But this didn't change. Their perspective didn't change. Their commitment to progress and rewarding themselves with what they want was not big enough that all it took was one little chip at that foundation, and suddenly we're back to where they started. And now they're waiting for the next painful thing to come for them to be motivated enough and have a strong enough catalyst to actually create change. And for me, it's so painful to watch that when the other way around is a gift that you're all given every single day. Like it's literally, here you go, Christmas. Every day, you can make the choice to do what you want to do every single day. You might not get to do everything, but out of your day, you get to choose what you need to do, how you need to show up, the work you need to put in order to create what you want. That's a choice. It's a gift. It's something that you get to do every day. Not have to, want to, wish to, need to. You get to. How do we make discipline simple? That's what I want to leave you with here. For me, there's a quadrant, right? Where something is conscious and subconscious, right? And that you can start doing something consciously until you can do it consciously competent. Then you do it subconsciously, and then you can do it competently subconsciously. I'm not going to go into that too much because most of you should be aware of that. Ultimately, the premise is what I want to share with you, that in order to make discipline easy, there's only one ingredient that you need to do. Show up. That's it. Just show up over time. And every single time that you show up, you build that muscle. Every single time that you don't want to do something and you do, you develop more strength, more resilience, more consistency, more discipline. And you don't have to think about it. It's not this huge, big thing with all of these emotions and stories and everything attached to it, like I described earlier in this episode, when most people think about discipline or being disciplined. It's just a whole bunch of shit. For me, I look at discipline as like a gift. It's something that I get to do. It's literally a recipe. If I could say to you, hey, do this one thing and you can have anything you want in your life, here it is. Do things at a level where you are willing to do it long enough until you achieve the end result. Outwork, outlast everybody. And the best part is, in this day and age, most people are so fucking soft that they'll give up at the first sign of anything that is too difficult. And why? Because you didn't have to face it as a kid. Your parents are too afraid of being disciplined or disciplining you because of how they grew up, that everyone's soft as fuck now. They're not willing to put in the work. And then they listen to all these rah-rah gurus about telling them how to suck it up and do it. And they're like, yeah, man, I'm going to do it, until they're going to show up when they don't want to, or until they've got to set the alarm for 4 a.m., or until they've got to fit things in around kids and work and exes and all the rest of that shit. That's when you're going to be tested. And that's your opportunity that you get to solve, that you get to conquer, if you are willing to show up consistently and give yourself the gift of a tool like discipline, which ultimately is just, like I said, you deciding to show up and do the do long enough until you achieve what you want. And when I say that, it's so easy and simple. But for so many people, when they think about it, it's conflicted and feels so messy and hard and everything else. Whereas ultimately, like, it's not. It's such a simple gift. How are you getting in your own way? That's what I want to leave you with today, is that this is something that you can conquer, that will no longer be difficult again in your entire life to be able to master. Are some things going to be more challenging than others? 100%. Like, I'm a massive sugar addict. It's because as a kid, I wasn't allowed to eat none. As soon as I was allowed to, it was like, woo, party time. So for me, I have to be more conscious around those choices if it's not in line with what I want, like getting leaner or feeling better or being healthier or having more energy or any of those things, so I don't get sugar crashes, whatever it might be. Like, that's something that's a little bit harder. For other people, maybe it's working out. For other people, maybe it's saving. For other people, maybe it's communicating in your relationship or in your job or with your family or whatever it might be. There will be things that on the scale of having to show up will be more challenging than others. But guess what? If they're all in line with where you want to go, it doesn't matter. You got to do them anyway. Otherwise, all you're left with is regret and stories. Whereas I want you to be left with progress and rewards, and no longer having to think about discipline being something that's even a challenge for you. You just decide what you're going to do, and then you just go do it. You just nail it. What's my goal this week? I want to start doing this. Cool. I'm going to do it every day. That's it. Will it be easy every day? No. But are you going to do it every day? Yes. There's no other story that needs to be put into that equation. But yet, what are you doing that is putting all of this crap in your way? I'm going to stop waffling. I'm going to leave things there. But ultimately, if you are struggling to just identify what it is that you want, where it is that you are, and ultimately what is going to progress you to be the person that you want to be, to discover what's in alignment with the results that you want, the life that you want, relationships, body, finances, whatever that might be. I have a 4-week identity shift process that literally every single person that goes through it comes out as what we call you 2.0, with the clarity and the confidence around who they are and where they're going. And if that's something that you want to go through or you want help with, reach out to me at adam@ilovechanginglives.com. Comment below this video with the words identity shift, and I will reach back out to you, because I would love to take you through that process so that you are no longer the main thing that is in your way.